Hey, y'all. We'll get started in just a sec. I'm running a little bit late, and I'm sorry about that. Give me 1 minute. I'm going to upload a PDF for you guys on Canvas. So give me 1 sec real quick. Y'all can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Give me 1 sec here.
Yes, I got it. Yeah.
Y'all, I'm uploading onto Canvas right now. Lecture notes for today's class. One sec. Okay, there it is. Can y'all see that?
Yes, we got it, sir.
Yay, okay. Excellent. Now I'm gonna try to share my desktop with you guys. 1 sec. There we go. All right. It's good to see everyone. Do we have any new people today? All right, can y'all see my desktop now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
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 Okay. And now I'm gonna go ahead and pull up that PDF that I just uploaded, and then we will begin our class. And we will begin our class right now. May the force be with you.
Also with you.
And
Also
also
with
with
you.
you.
Also
with you.
That was kind of lame, but it's okay. You better do better at the end of the class. Good to be with you guys today. Sorry I'm running a little bit late. Who is my timekeeper?
I guess I undertook that responsibility.
Oh, who's talking right now?
Ashley
Ashley, what's your last name?
McMullen.
Yay. Thanks for doing that, Ashley. I need you to get my attention and give me a 10-minute warning at 4:55. Can you do
I
that?
can do that. I can do that.
Yay, thank you so much. And if I had another timekeeper, did I have another timekeeper? I don't know. If I
I'll do
did,
it.
who?
Oh no, I thought you were offering. I'm sorry.
Now who? Oh no. Okay. Ashley, thank you very much. I look forward to hearing from you at 4:55. You guys are awesome. Okay, y'all can see my desktop, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
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 Okay, cool.
Yes, sir.
Now, okay, y'all, a little bit of review. By the way, you're going to have a quiz on Wednesday. I'm going to give you a quiz on Wednesday. Guess what it's going to cover? It's going to cover Heraclitus and who?
Parmenides.
That's right. Heraclitus and Parmenides. There will be 3 questions. It'll be multiple choice. It will go live on Canvas. You will take the quiz at the beginning of class. At the beginning of class on Wednesday, I'll give you 10 minutes. Most of you will be done with it in 2 minutes or less. And y'all, if you've done the reading, or quite frankly, if you've just engaged in the lectures, you will do well on the quiz, okay? But you do need to engage in the lectures. It helps to do the reading, obviously. You can grasp the material much better if you do the reading. But FYI, you're going to have a quiz at the beginning of class on Wednesday, okay? Yeah, so does anyone have any questions or comments right now at the moment?
I do.
Who's talking?
Olivia.
Hi, Olivia. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
So I will not be here Wednesday for class. When should I take my quiz then?
Can you get on Canvas at that time?
No, I have a volleyball game.
Okay. Could you take your quiz at 3?
No. I will be at the gym at 3. 3 till about 9. 8 or 9.
Okay, so here's what I will do. Okay, here's what I want to do. Olivia, I want you to email me. I want you to email me and tell me that, okay? And it'll be fine. It'll work out. We'll make an arrangement. So if you'll email me, everything will be fine.
Okay,
And
perfect.
we'll
Thank,
make an alternative plan, okay?
thank you.
Thank you so much. And that goes for anyone else. Like, this is what I want to do. I'm going to have the quizzes go live. You're going to have 10 minutes to do the quiz at the beginning of class. We will do this, I think, 3 times over the course of the semester. And if you can't make that time, we will come up with an alternative plan. Okay. But I need you to email me. If you don't email me, something bad might happen. All right. Very good. Thank you for that, Olivia. Y'all, who can remind me of the big maxim of Heraclitus? What's Heraclitus's big maxim? His dicho, his lema. Lema would be another way of saying it in Spanish, I think. What's Heraclitus's big maxim?
All is
Is it that all
flux.
is being?
So he did now. Okay, all is flux. That is correct. That is correct. Now I was looking for something else. Who can give me another of Heraclitus's big maxims?
You can't
All is
step in the
being?
same river twice.
Ah, you cannot step in the same river twice. Very good. Who said that?
That was me again.
Okay, I'm so
Ashley,
sorry.
Ashley McMullen.
Thank you, Ashley. This is why it's going to be super awesome whenever we can meet in person, which please God, I'm hoping we can do that, by March. By the way, I'm getting my first vaccination on Saturday. I hope that y'all do the same. All right. So anyway, Ashley, thank you for that. You can't step in the same river twice, right? Now, who said all is being?
That was me, Brooke.
Hi, Brooke. Brooke, what's your last name?
Noble.
Okay, excellent. Now, no, Heraclitus is not the one who said all is being.
Yeah, I realized it was Hermedes that said that after I said it.
Excellent. Y'all, let me hear you say Parmenides.
Parmenides.
He's the dude who said that all is being. Now, we're going to talk about Parmenides in this class. That's what today's class is dedicated to. And let me just tell you real quick, Parmenides is kind of like the opposite of Heraclitus. What I'm trying to do is to make them marry each other. I'm trying to take Heraclitus and Parmenides and put them together in dialectic. Let me hear you say dialectic. Dialectic is a fancy word for like a conversation, right? Or a dialogue. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about Parmenides today, and he's kind of like the opposite of Heraclitus. But first, let's keep going with Heraclitus. He says, all is flux. Yes. He says, you can't step in the same river twice. Now, who is it that comes along and one-ups Heraclitus?
Cratylus.
Cratylus. Now, what does Cratylus say?
You can't step in the same river once.
Wow, that's kind of crazy. Now, Nick or anyone, remind me why Heraclitus says you can't step in the same river twice. Why would he say that?
Because it changed so fast that by the time you go there the second time, it's already changed.
That's exactly right. So if we were to take a field trip to the Brazos River today on Monday, we could all step in the river. But if we went back tomorrow, we can't step in the same river because the same river doesn't exist. The river has changed. It's not the same, right? Kind of a weird thought, but I think that it also really makes sense. It's kind of like those time-lapse videos. What is my example of a time-lapse video that we talked about?
Sandcastle.
Y'all have all seen those, right? I mean, sandcastles. where you speed up the video and there's little kids and they're building sandcastles and the waves are coming in and going out and coming in and going out and everything's going really fast. And suddenly a little kid makes a sandcastle, it pops up very quickly, and then the waves come and destroy it and it's gone. And then later, someone else makes another sandcastle somewhere else on the beach. Maybe it's bigger, maybe it's really big. And so you can actually see it getting bigger, right? But then the waves come and it goes away. If you were on the beach, like let's say it was spring break at Padre Island and you're on the beach, you're hanging out with your friends and you look up and you see a sandcastle, it seems stable, does it not? I mean, it seems like it's really there. It seems like a permanent thing, kind of like this cup. Like I'm looking at my cup, it looks like it's a stable thing. It's not like the cup is melting before my eyes. When we talk about Descartes later in the semester, we are going to see an example of something melting before our eyes. But when you look at the sandcastles on the beach at spring break at Padre Island, they don't look like they're melting. I mean, you look up and there it is. They look stable. They look permanent. They seem like they're there. But are they going to be there in a week? No. Are they going to be there in a day? No. What about a century, a millennium? No. Will this cup be here in 1,000,000 years? I don't think so. The cup looks stable, but if we were to have a time-lapse video of 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years, speed it up into 1 hour, we would see that the cup is going to dissolve. It's going to go away. I don't know what's going to happen to it, but it will not be here. It will not be a cup in 1,000 years, I'm willing to bet. So the cup looks stable, but is it? Heraclitus says no, right? Now, Cratylus comes along and one-ups Heraclitus. What does Cratylus say?
That you couldn't step in the same river once.
Wow, put that in your pipe and smoke it. You thought Heraclitus was crazy. Cratylus is like Heraclitus on steroids, right? Now, why in the world would he say that you can't even step in the same river once?
Because it's always changing.
Because it's always
You couldn't step in it for
I believe it was changing as he was stepping in it.
yeah, put it like this. You can't step in it because there is no it. You can't step in the river because there is no river. That's crazy, right? Like, but this is why you took philosophy. What Cratylus is actually saying is that rivers aren't real. It seems like they are. It looks like they are. You grew up thinking that they are. Your mommy and daddy told you that they are. But in reality, there's no such thing as a river. In reality, the world is kind of like what? Kind of like what?
An idea.
A river?
Sergio, did you say something?
I said it will be like an idea. Like an idea isn't
Okay.
like real.
Think back to the last class. What are some of the metaphors or analogies that we use to talk about Heraclitus's world?
Oh, it's about nature.
You referred it to the Bible.
Genesis 1:2, right? Genesis 1:2 says, the earth was formless and void, and darkness was hovering over the surface of the deep. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Another example was the static TV, right?
The
Where
confusion.
everything's flickering and flashing, and you can't even.
Buzzing confusion.
Yep, that's right. A blooming, buzzing confusion. All of these are sort of analogies or metaphors for what Heraclitus thinks is actually real. One of the labels that we can put on that view is the label nihilism. Nihilism. I'm going to put that in the chat if I can. The root word of nihilism it comes from the German word nihil, which means nothing, okay? Nietzsche would be another example of a nihilist. We'll come to him later. Cratylus is even more of a nihilist than Heraclitus is. But I think that you can see how they're similar, right? I mean, Cratylus is just taking Heraclitus to the next level. Now, y'all, all of that is Heraclitus, okay? Today, we're going to transition to Parmenides. And when we look at Parmenides, we're going to see that he's the very opposite of Heraclitus. Heraclitus says that all is flux, but Parmenides says that all is what?
Being.
Being. Now, what the heck does he mean by that? Well, it's hard to know. And so what we have to do is we have to pay attention to what he says. And this is why the Peter Adamson article, can y'all see this? The Peter Adamson article that is on Canvas is super important on Parmenides, because when you read that article, you begin to see how Parmenides describes being. And y'all, here's the crazy thing about the way Parmenides describes the world, aka being. He never says what being is. He only says what being is not. That's kind of crazy. Now, we're going to get there. We're going to come back to that later in the class. First of all, I want to pay attention to some, well, actually, first of all, let me back up. Do you remember whack-a-mole? Whack-a-mole, remember whack-a-mole?
Yes.
Parmenides doesn't say whack-a-mole, he says whack-a-what?
Mhm.
Non-being, whack and non-being. If you read the Peter Adamson article, you'll see that Parmenides looks at us and he says, don't even think about non-being. Don't even go there. Non-being is not real. And if you try to talk about non-being or even think about non-being, you're going to get confused. You're going to end up contradicting yourself. You're not going to discover what's truly real. So don't talk about non-being. Don't think about non-being. Whack a non-being. Okay? That's what Parmenides says.
That will be kind of opposite to what Heraclitus says, because like if everything's being, then everything has a form, right? No?
Well, is that Sergio?
Yeah.
Sergio, I like where you're going, but hold up just a little bit. I think that this, Sergio and class, look with me at at number 2A on the outline, okay? Because Sergio, I think this is going to answer your question. What I want to talk to you about is manifestations of non-being. In other words, there's a list of things that Parmenides says, don't think about that because that involves non-being. So look with me at 2A. Parmenides says, let me tell you what being is not. Let me tell you what you should not think about. Change. What's another word for change, Sergio? Who's my man who likes Back to the Future?
Transform. I was muted. Sorry.
No worries. Go ahead, Sergio.
I said transform.
Okay. Jason, what am I looking for?
Say again.
Give me another word for change that has to do with Back to the Future.
Change.
Who can help Jason out? Jason, I'll give you a hint.
Flux.
Flux.
Oh, okay, yeah, the flux.
Right? Flux capacitor, baby.
Yes, sir.
All right. So you see, Parmenides says, don't even think about change or flux. All right, now Sergio. Heraclitus says that all is what? Sergio, can you hear me?
He's muted.
Yeah. Okay,
I'm sorry, I was muted.
No worries. It's all good.
Okay.
Heraclitus says that all is what?
Oh, it's I think non-being. Sorry, I confused them. I have in my notes.
Okay.
He thinks everything is in flux. Yeah.
Right. Everything is flux. But look at 2A. Parmenides is saying, fuck that. Right?
Yeah.
Parmenides is saying, if there's one thing that being is not, it's change. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
Being cannot change. Being does not change. Why? Why does Parmenides think that?
He thought change was an illusion.
It has to stop being something. To
Let
be
me-
another-
That's
another-
exactly right. Let me put it like this. Parmenides says, don't think about change. Change is not real. Being is not characterized by change. Here's why. Because change involves non-being. Did you hear that?
Mhm.
Change involves non-being. Now, how can that be?
Because you gotta lose something and gain something.
That's right. If a tadpole changes into a frog, right? Let's imagine that you have a frog. Now, what did the frog used to be?
Tadpole.
Right. But is the frog a tadpole?
No.
No.
No,
Yes.
that's non-being. The moment you say that the frog is not the tadpole, which is a true statement, you're talking about non-being. Parmenides says, whack a non-being. You cannot talk about non-being. Don't talk about it. Don't think about it. Therefore, you must not think about change. Therefore, the world being has nothing to do with change. It does not change. It must not, you must not imagine that being changes. Why? Because that involves what?
Non-being.
Non-being. Now, how does change involve non-being? Think about the frog. Is the frog a tadpole?
No.
No.
Did it
But it's the
used to be
same
a tadpole?
thing.
Did it used to be a tadpole?
Yes.
Yeah, but when it was a tadpole, was it a frog?
No.
No. See, that's non-being. The tadpole is not the frog. That's non-being, whack a non-being. The frog is not a tadpole. That's non-being, whack a non-being. Are you with me?
Wait,
So-
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so in the reading, it talks about a giraffe being like painted or something.
Yeah,
So-
that's right.
So the blue giraffe is not a being because it's not the same giraffe before, right? Is that
Yeah,
what you're
that's
trying to
exactly
say?
right. It involves change. That's exactly right, Sarah.
But it's still the same like thing. But it's
Well,
just a,
and Peter Adamson addresses that. He says there's two ways to think about it. But let me just say, I would recommend that you think about it this way. The blue is new. Like, let's say that the giraffe was brown before and now it's blue. Is the blue giraffe brown? Yes or no?
no.
Right. The blue giraffe is not brown. That's non-being. The brown is not, and that's non-being. You can't think about non-being,
Yeah.
whack non-being.
Because change involves difference. That's what
That's
he's
right.
saying. But there's no difference in his perspective.
That's exactly right, Sergio. Now, Sarah, are you with me? Does that make sense?
Yes, because I was really confused when I was like reading that because I was thinking of it like, well, it's still a giraffe, so it didn't change like forms like how a tadpole or a tadpole to a frog. So I was
Right.
like confused on that, but now
That's
that makes
right.
sense because
That's
it's
right.
not brown and it's blue and it's
That's right. You
yeah.
could say that the blue giraffe is not brown. Boom, there's non-being, whack a non-being. Or you could use a fancy philosophical term and talk about the accidents of the giraffe, but let's not worry about that. Let's move on. I love what Sergio just said, because y'all, there's a second thing that Parmenides says you must not think about because it has nothing to do with being. If there's one thing that being is not, look with me at number B. Being is not multiple, AKA being is not diverse. Now, why is that? Sergio just said it. Because it involves difference. So I'm holding two pens, right? A blue pen and a black pen, right? But is the blue pen the black pen?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. So let me get this straight. The blue pen is not the black pen. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That's non-being, whack a non-being. See, the moment you say that the blue pen is not the black pen, you're thinking about non-being. You're entertaining the possibility that non-being is real. Parmenides says, whack a non-being. See, being cannot be two things.
Right. In
Being
that case,
cannot
it would-
be being cannot be multiple. It cannot be diverse. There can be no diversity or multiplicity in being. Being must be one.
It wouldn't be that different from Heraclitus now that I think about it, because it's like he doesn't have a form after all. So it is formless. Because if he has a form, it is different than other forms. No?
Yeah, and Parmenides says, fuck that. Right? He says, no, don't think about that because that involves non-being.
I have
That
another
involves
question
non-being.
along similar lines. So then, if most philosophers are referred to as having a teacher and a student, then obviously they said they don't know who's Parmenides' teacher, but they said it might have been Xenophane, or I don't know how to say his name. It starts with an X.
Xenophanes.
So what was his philosophy then?
So Jagger, I'm tempted to not answer your question. Let me write that guy's name. He was another pre-Socratic philosopher, Xenophanes or Xenophanes. The only thing I'm gonna say about him is something that's relevant to our class that we might get to, and that is Xenophanes' big point is that the gods, the Greek gods like Homer, Zeus, Poseidon, right? Or Zeus, Poseidon, Athena, they're not real. In other words, the thing that Xenophanes is famous for was a critique of the traditional pantheon of gods, like Homer and like Zeus and Athena and Hera and all those people. Are you with me?
Yeah. I don't want to get off topic. I was just curious if he had a teacher and why they thought it was him.
Well, so I just want to say that what Xenophanes is doing there is he's critiquing myth or mythology.
We're doing video, right? We're doing video.
You see that? Xenophanes is critiquing myth or mythology. He's critiquing the myths of the Greek gods. We're going to get to this later in the class a little bit if we have time. But what I want to say to you is that Xenophanes is carrying out a project of demythologization. Dang it. Y'all can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Demythologization. Demythologization. In other words, Xenophanes is he's a myth buster. We're going to talk about that later, okay? But if you think about Parmenides, like, let me ask you a question. We just said, like, do you guys agree with me that Parmenides says there's no such thing as change? Do you agree with me that he says that?
Yes.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do the Greek gods change? Does Zeus change?
He changed forms.
He changes all the
Parmenides.
time. Like on Monday, Zeus is happy, and on Tuesday, he's sad. Like he changes all the time. Are you with me? And he does change forms. But you see, even that statement by Parmenides would rule out the possibility that Zeus is real, much less that Zeus is God.
Why does he, doesn't he introduce the topic through like a divine intervention? Like, isn't that how he starts it off? Why would he do that?
You're talking about Parmenides?
Yeah.
Well, what Peter Adamson, this is the last question I'm going to take for now, although you guys are awesome, but I got to get through this lecture. So Nick, I mean, I think Peter Adamson addresses that question. What Peter Adamson says, I think, is that Parmenides appeals to divine authority as a rhetorical device, basically. It's a rhetorical move to try to convince people that he's legit. I mean, I think that's what Peter Adamson says, and that makes sense.
I think he brought it up as somewhat of a like I think he said he was trying to use it to essentially like prove his point of how like kind of out there his ideas were and put them in a like more, I guess, swallowable pill, you know. But it just seems strange, like with his concepts that he would bring up.
It's very strange. It's very strange and it's very paradoxical. And I'm glad that you noticed that. Nick, that kind of thing happens in philosophy all the time. And in fact, Nick, what would be super awesome is that if you could remember that and bring it up when we get to Nietzsche. Okay. But it's a great point, but I got to keep moving because y'all, there's all of these things that Parmenides says have nothing to do with being. The first thing that has nothing to do with being is what?
Was it change?
Change. The very thing that Heraclitus says is ultimately real, right? So being has nothing to do with change. It has nothing to do with multiplicity or diversity. Look with me at number 3. The other thing that Parmenides says is that being has nothing to do, it absolutely must not involve parts and wholes. Who can spell whole for me?
WHOLES.
That's right. We're not talking about HOLE. No, WHOLE. Parmenides says being can have, it has nothing to do with parts and wholes. Now, y'all, what am I holding?
A watch.
My watch. Do you agree with me that my watch consists of parts and wholes?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
the whole thing is the watch, right? The watch is the whole. So obviously it involves a whole, but does it involve parts?
In a way,
Yeah.
yes.
My watch has parts, right? There's a battery inside. There's this little part of the buckle, you know, there's buttons. There's all sorts of holes in my watch. I mean, all sorts of parts. And Parmenides says, whatever being is, it's not like that. And there's lots of reasons why. I mean, we've already seen that multiplicity or diversity involves non-being, right? Because this pen is not that pen. Well, parts and wholes also involves multiplicity, right? The buckle is not the button. The battery is not the semiconductor chip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boom, that's non-being. Parmenides says whack a non-being. But there's more to it. When it comes to parts and wholes, or what I call on number C, composition, let me hear you say composition.
Composition.
What is composition? Composition is having parts and wholes. It's being composed of parts and wholes.
I have a question.
Okay.
So would that consider like us being non-being, since there's a lot that goes on for us to basically become a being? Like we have to have a heart, we have to have blood
Who's
flow and
talking?
everything. Victoria Rush.
Victoria, are you thinking about our bodies?
Yeah.
Absolutely. The answer is yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Parmenides has to say that our bodies aren't real. Crazy, isn't it? But y'all, it's not as crazy as you might think. And I'm going to show you that as we keep going. Because earlier, whenever we talked about Parmenides and I was like, yo, he says you can't step in the same river twice. Did that seem crazy at first?
No.
Yeah. What about Cradlus? You can't even, I'm cussing today. You can't even step in the same river once. Did that sound crazy to you the first time you heard it? Yeah.
Yes.
But I think that you now see that it's not so crazy, right? Like, it's important to take these thinkers seriously. They seem crazy, but y'all, actually, reality is crazy. Whatever the truth is, it's crazy. And the same is true for Parmenides. I mean, all this stuff seems crazy. Like, what are you talking about, Parmenides? The watch isn't real because it has parts and holes. The two pens aren't real because they involve non-being. Yeah, he also would say that our bodies aren't real, and it seems crazy, doesn't it? It's not as crazy as you might think. By the way, Buddhists say the same thing. Are Buddhists crazy? Well, I would say they're not. Okay, so let's keep going. Parmenides says that all is being, right? And let me tell you what being is not. It's not non-being. Being is not non-being in the form of change. That's 2A. Being is not non-being in the form of multiplicity or diversity. That's 2B. Being is not non-being in the form of composition, parts and wholes. And that's because that's a special case of diversity / multiplicity. But there's another reason too. Parts and wholes implies dependence. Dependence. Because would y'all agree with me that the whole watch depends on the battery? Would you agree?
Yes.
Yes.
And who was talking a minute ago? Whoever was talking a minute ago was also implying that our whole bodies depend on our heart for survival, right? Well, that can't be the case. Parmenides is like, oh, no, whatever being is, it must not involve dependence. If the watch is dependent on any of its parts, if the human body is dependent on any of its parts, including on any of its parts, that involves dependence or contingency. And Parmenides wants to say, screw that. Like, whatever being is, it's not dependent on anything. It's not contingent. It exists necessarily. It exists necessarily. Does my watch exist necessarily? Hell no. It depends on all sorts of things. It depends on the battery. It depends on the factory in China where it was made. It depends on the regulations that regulate the economy in China. It depends on the workers in that factory. It depends on all sorts of things. Well, none of that is true for being, according to Parmenides. So Parmenides, when he thinks about these relationships of dependence or contingency, that's non-being, whack a non-being. Are you with me? So Parmenides says, all is being, and being is not non-being. It's not non-being in the form of change. That's 2A. It's not non-being in the form of multiplicity / diversity. That's 2B. It's not non-being in the form of composition, having parts and wholes. That's 2C. And then lastly, it's not non-being in the form of spatial extension. What the heck does that mean? Spatial extension. I wish I had a ruler in my office, but I don't. Pretend like this pen is a ruler, right? You've got 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inches, 4 inches. Well, guess what? That's non-being, because like Peter Adamson says in the article, if you separate the 2nd inch from the 1st inch, that's diversity, right? That's non-being. Are you with me? So spatial extension, anything that's even extended in space, involves non-being.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So what if there's so many different rules for what is being and non-being, and he believes all is being, what would actually be being for him if there's so many different things for it?
And that's Sierra?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Okay, check this out, Sarah, because I'm going to get to that. You're jumping the gun a little bit, which is fine. But here's the crazy thing about Parmenides and being. He thinks that we cannot say what being is We can only say what it's not.
Okay, I have a question too. Okay,
Now, hang
so
on, Sarah.
Okay, sorry.
Here's what I want you to do. I want you to hold your question. I want you to hold your question and we're going to come back to it, but you're awesome. I want to go back to Sierra for a moment. Sierra, okay, Sierra, check this out. I grew up going to Sunday school when I was a little boy. I grew up a Baptist. I'm sure that other people in the class went to Sunday school when they grew up. And one of the things that you probably heard going to Sunday school, whether you're Baptist or Catholic or whatever, is this: God does not have a body. Right? Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I mean, Christians and Muslims and Jews. I hope that I have some Muslims and Jews in my class. But Christians and Muslims and Jews, they all say that God has no body.
Yeah, he's spiritual.
Yes, he's spiritual. Parmenides is saying that being is spiritual. Whatever it is, it's spiritual. But Sarah, for now, what we mean by spiritual is just not having a body, not having spatial extension, not having matter, M-A-T-T-E-R, immaterial. But Sierra, here's what I want you to realize. When we say that God is spiritual or immaterial or not embodied, that's a negation. We're not saying what God is, we're only saying what God is not. And y'all, what I'm going to show you later as we keep going is that Aristotle picks up everything that Parmenides says about being and he gives it a high five. But for Aristotle, it's not about being, it's about God. It's about the unmoved mover. Now, we're going to come to that later, but what I want to say to you, Sierra, is all of this stuff that Parmenides says about being, Christians say about God. And if you think about that, you begin to realize, oh, it's not crazy. Actually, Christians kind of believe the same thing. It's just that they're not talking about being, they're talking about God. But guess what? Christians also say that God is being. Whoa. See, Parmenides is not crazy. What he's saying is that we cannot say what being is. We can only say what being is not. And what is it not? It's not change. It's not multiplicity/diversity. It's not composition. It's not spatial extension. So
That makes more sense.
I hope that helps, Sierra. I'm going to jump to number 3, and then I'm going to ask Sarah for whatever she wanted to say. But look with me at number 3. In other words, being is not changing or changeable. It's not diverse or multiple. It's not composite. It's not spatially extended. Now, actually, Sarah, hold your thought because I'm going to keep going. Y'all, are y'all with me so far? Like, you might have questions, but am I making sense? I'm trying to get to realize the crazy stuff that Parmenides is saying. Okay, good. Now look with me at number 4. Awesome. Look with me at number 4. If you string together all of these negations, now what's a negation? A negation is saying X is not Y, not. See, look with me at number 3 again. Being is not changing, not diverse, not composite, not spatially extended. Did you hear the not? Not. Being is not this, being is not that. Being is not A, being is not C, being is not B, being is not E, being is not F. Those are negations. What is a negation? A negation is saying no. Does everyone see how letters 2, A, B, C, and D are negations?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good. Now look with me at 4. If you string together all of those negations, now this is really crazy what I'm about to tell you. If you string them all together, you get the notion of simplicity. Simplicity. a term that Aristotle uses in Metaphysics 12:7 to describe God. What is the word there? What is the word there? To describe what?
Theos.
Theos. What is that? That's the Greek word for God. Like theology. The Greek word for God is theos. Aristotle talks about theos, God. We're going to get to that later in the class. But for now, what I'm trying to tell you is that the way Aristotle thinks about God is the same way that Parmenides thinks about what?
Being.
Being. It's not this, it's not that, it's not this, it's not that. Those are all negations. And if you string those negations together, what you have is just a bundle of negations. God is not this, God is not that, God is not this, God is not that. And that is called the doctrine of simplicity. Simplicity. It's a string of negations. So look with me at 4 again. It's as if Aristotle looks at Parmenides and says, you thought you were describing being, but actually you're talking about God. Okay? Aristotle says God does not change. God is not multiple. By the way, those of you who are Christians or Jews, have you ever heard this? The Lord our God is one. This is from Exodus, I think it's from Numbers 6, the book of Numbers. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Do you realize that the Old Testament teaches that God is one? Have you ever heard that?
Yes.
That's what Parmenides is saying. He's saying that God, that's what Aristotle is saying about God, but it's what Parmenides is saying about being. Being cannot be 2 or 3 or 4. Being cannot be multiple or diverse. Being must be one.
I have a question about that.
And I just want you to know that the Hebrew Bible says the same thing. So you see, Parmenides is not crazy. Okay, ask a question, then I'm going to continue with number 5.
So with what you're saying with the God being one, but then you learn about the Trinity being 3.
Now who's talking right now?
That's Sierra.
Okay, hey Sierra, keep going.
So what is if it can't be multiple things, then how does it work with the Trinity being a God of 3 and 1?
Very complicatedly.
Okay.
We're light years away from being able to talk about that and still have our class be manageable. But you just need to know that the doctrine of the Trinity for Christian orthodoxy, people like St. Augustine, Thomas Aquinas, or C.S. Lewis, y'all, those are my 3 stock examples of Orthodox Christian thinkers. St. Augustine, Thomas Aquinas, and C.S. Lewis. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of C.S. Lewis. He wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, right? Great stuff. I'm an Anglican priest. C.S. Lewis was an Anglican. I'm on C.S. Lewis's team. What I'm trying to say to you right now is that what C.S. Lewis would say, Sierra, is, yeah, we believe in the doctrine of the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, yes, but that must not undermine or contradict the notion that God is one.
Okay, can I say my question now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So what I was saying is that Parmenides and Heraclitus, they both say all is one, but Heraclitus says that all things are flux, so changing. But
like the salad dressing.
Yes, but for Parmenides, he's saying that a being is not changing, and you're saying that God is one, but God is not a not being. So
sorry, wait, what was the last thing you said? God is not what?
That God is not a being or not a being. he's or something. I don't know. Like I'm just
Hey,
confused on
Sarah,
how
you go, girl. That you're on the right track.
I'm just
But
I don't know.
let me just say this. Let me just say this. What C.S. Lewis and Thomas Aquinas and what Augustine would say is actually God is being.
Because he's spiritual. That's what you said, right? And that's not.
No, I didn't say that.
Oh.
I'm just saying that for C.S. Lewis, God is being. Now, notice, I didn't say that God is a being. I said that God is being. C.S. Lewis believes that. In fact, St. Augustine says that God is being itself. I could quote that in Latin, but I don't want to. You don't want me to. But yeah. Sarah, keep grappling with that. For now, I want you to know that you're right. God is not a being. This cup is a being. Matt Bolter is a being.
I got 5 minutes.
Thank you. God is not a being, but God is being.
Okay,
By the
I'm
way-
sorry for the confusion. I'm just like.
No, it's okay. This is hard stuff. You just got to hang with me and keep going, and things will begin to make more and more sense. You're on the right track. God is not a being. A tree is a being. God is not a being in the world for Thomas Aquinas or St. Augustine or C.S. Lewis. God is being itself. It's kind of like this. God is not a beautiful thing. What's the most beautiful thing you can think of? Like some supermodel or maybe a rose or a beautiful sunset. Those are all beautiful things. But God, for Thomas Aquinas or St. Augustine or C.S. Lewis, is not a beautiful thing. God is beauty itself. And in the same way, God is not a being, God is being itself. Now, look with me at number 5. We're going to come back to this later. You guys are awesome. But I want to make one more point before I end. And by the way, I have 9 minutes, I think. Look with me at number 5. Because remember, we've talked about this string of negations, right? Being is not this, being is not that, being a string of negations. And if you string them all together, what you get is the doctrine or the notion or the teaching of simplicity. Okay? But look with me at number 5. I want you to think about those negations. Change, diversity, composition. Think about those negations. Look with me at number 5. Notice that each negation is really a negation of a negation. What? That's crazy. Each negation is really a negation of a negation. Each negation is a negation of finite being. What does finite mean? It means limited, right? If I say that the vaccine for coronavirus is there's a finite supply, what does that mean? It means there's a limited supply. There's not an unlimited amount of the vaccine. See, finite is a negation. Do you see that? If I say that this pen is not infinite, and by the way, is the pen infinite? Yes or no?
No.
Well,
No.
guess what? You've just negated it. You've imposed a limit. That's a negation. A limit is a negation. And by the way, the Latin word for limit is finis. Like end or finish. Like if you ever watch a movie in French, at the end it says finis. That means end. See, all of the negations in number 2, they're all negations of negations. They're all double negatives. Now, let me just hit the pause button real quick. What is a double negative? If I say I'm not male. Am I male? Did I just say I'm male or that I'm not male?
Not male, so you are male.
You're basically canceling out what you said
I
before.
mean, you
when
are.
used a double negative.
You
Right.
cancel-
If I say my name is not Matt.
So it is Matt.
Yeah,
Right.
your name's Matt.
That's a double negation. What I'm saying is that that's what Parmenides is doing with being. He's negating. He's saying being is not X. Change, multiplicity, composition, but all of those things that he's negating are already negative. They're all examples of finite being. So really what Parmenides is doing is he's negating negation. These are double negatives. I'm going to read number 5, and then we're going to start off with this next class, okay? I'm going to read number 5. And y'all remember, I upload all these videos to YouTube. Look with me at number 5. Notice that each negation, what negations are those? They're the negations in number 2. Being has nothing to do with change. Being is not diverse. Notice that each negation is really the negation of a negation, or a double negation. Each negation is a negation of finite being. Change, spatial extension, those are all finite being. Even having a body. Remember, we said God does not have a body. If you grew up in going to Baptist Sunday school, you learned that God does not have a body. Well, a body is finite being because it's limited. Is my body infinite? No, it's limited. It's finite. It's negated. So when Parmenides / Aristotle / Thomas Aquinas / C.S. Lewis and Augustine, when they say that God / being is not embodied, it's not spatially extended, they're negating finite being. Okay? I know this is weird. Look with me at 5. This is exactly like the Christian tradition of negative theology. Orthodox Christians have always said, God is not this, God is not that, God is not this, God is not that. God is not, is God a man?
We don't know.
No.
We don't know.
No.
Well, we know that he's not. We know that God is not a man. We know, I mean, look, there might be atheists in this class. That's fine. I'm not asking you to believe this stuff. I'm asking you to know what Christians have said about God, and Jewish people and Muslims. And my stock examples are Augustine, Thomas Aquinas, and C.S. Lewis. And they all say God is not a man.
Mm-hmm.
They say we know that God is not a man. By the way, is God a woman?
No.
No. Does God have an X chromosome or a Y chromosome?
No.
No. Does God have ovaries?
No.
Does God have a penis?
He doesn't have anything.
No.
God isn't a
God
being
does not
because he's
have-
not here.
God does not have any of these things. See, what Thomas Aquinas literally says, look with me at the end of number 5. What Thomas Aquinas literally says is this: we cannot know what God is, but only what God is not. That's exactly what Parmenides says about being. It's not this, it's not that. In other words, look with me at the last line of number 5. In other words, for Aquinas and Aristotle, what is God not? God is not finite. For Parmenides, what is being not? Finite. Y'all, that's it for me. This is a crazy class. I'll take 1 or 2 questions in the next 2 minutes. Anyone have any questions?
I have them.
Yeah. Who's talking?
Sergio.
Rachel or Sergio, either one is.
Go you first. You go.
We'll do Rachel and then Sergio, and then we'll call it a day.
All right. So essentially being what I kind of gather from all that is being really isn't what something is. Being is what something is not.
For Parmenides. Remember, we're not talking about Donald Trump's view or, Jesus's view. We're talking about Parmenides' view. So that's right. Now say it again, Rachel.
So basically, being is what everything is not.
That's being is not this or not that.
If
That's
you can
right.
think of it, then it's not being. If you can give a name to it, then it's not being.
Right. Other than the name
Essentially.
being. Other than the name being, which is why philosophers say that Parmenides is the first metaphysician. He's the first metaphysician in the history of philosophy. Y'all, we'll come back to that next class. Parmenides is the first metaphysician in the history of philosophy. But yeah, I think you're right, Rachel. Okay. Now, Rachel, I want you to keep sitting with this. This is crazy stuff, y'all. We're like in the 4th class of Intro to Philosophy. Just write stuff down, take notes, meditate on it, think about it, go over it again, ask yourself, does this make sense? And then keep coming back, okay? If you do that, you're going to be good. Now, Sergio, last question, and then we're going to call it a day.
Yeah, I can't not see the contradiction saying like being is or God is finite. I mean, I'm sorry, no, forget that. He says that you can't say what God is not, but at the same time.
No, he doesn't say that.
Yes, he says you cannot know what God is, but you only.
Yeah, you can't know what God is.
Not, right? So that means God is not something, but at the same time, like, seems contradictory to me, because if God is infinite, then it's like all or everything, and well
yeah. Well, that is
funny.
Basically, that is what's being claimed, that God is all, that God is infinite. Now, if you read the Peter Adamson article, there is a little issue that we would need to discuss. It has to do with the fact that Parmenides says that being is a sphere. Did you read that?
Yeah.
Yes. That's interesting.
That creates a little issue, but you'll notice that even there, Peter Adamson said, some people interpret that as a metaphor. That's how I interpret it. It's a metaphor. But I think, so Sergio, yes, Parmenides is saying that being is infinite. It's not limited.
Right.
And what Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas say about God.
Right. Yeah. What I meant is that technically you can say God is a man, but also he has to be a woman and everything else. That's basically what I was meaning.
Well, but remember, Parmenides doesn't think that men and women are real.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So don't forget that. And y'all, okay, now check this out. This is the last thing I'm going to say. Parmenides doesn't think that men and women are real. He doesn't think that X chromosomes and Y chromosomes are real. That is why we need Heraclitus. Now, Heraclitus doesn't think they're real either, but here's the deal. Aristotle comes along. Aristotle. See, we're ramping up to Aristotle and Plato right now. And Aristotle comes along and he says, you know what? Parmenides is brilliant. Wow, he's brilliant. But I need to figure out a way to give Parmenides a high five and still say that X chromosomes are real and turtles are real.
Okay, so what did Parmenides think he was? Was he like just generalist? Like that?
Parmenides thinks that
like, how did he identify himself then?
He didn't. He thinks that all of that is an illusion. Read the Peter Adamson article closely. He thinks that it's all an illusion, and it might seem crazy, but Buddhists think the same thing sometimes. But the point I'm trying to make right now,
dream state.
The point I'm trying to make right now, and then I'm going to hang up, is that Aristotle thinks it's a problem that Parmenides has to say that cups are an illusion and human bodies and rose bushes are an illusion. Aristotle thinks that's a problem. So he has to come up with a way to give Parmenides a high five and still say that those things are real. Guess how he does it? Here's how. He takes Parmenides and he takes Heraclitus and he puts them together. He marries them and he puts them together in dialectic. I need you to know that word dialectic. It might be on a quiz on Wednesday. Dialectic is when you take two things and put them in conversation. That's what Aristotle and Plato do with Heraclitus and Parmenides. They're opposites, right? But those thinkers, Plato and Aristotle, they take them and they put them in dialectic and they give them a high five to both of them. All right. Y'all, may the force be with you.
And also with you.
And also with
All
you.
right. Job. I will see y'all on Wednesday.
Hasta luego.